You are listening to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast, where we strip away the noise, unleash our truth, and align with our highest self. I'm your host, Felicia Dom, certified life coach, Reiki practitioner, and chakra guide, here to help women find deep love and interconnection within themselves. This podcast is here to increase awareness, inspire your journey, and educate you as you reclaim your energy and rise fully into who you are. Check the show notes for links to my healing circle, coaching, and more ways to work with me. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast. I'm here with Lena, Suarez, Angelino. She is an international speaker, licensed clinician, social worker, author, and burnout consultant for nonprofit, schools, and companies. Lena can provide services in both English and Spanish, both in person or online. The founder of Light Collective & Co., a place where you can holistically and effectively heal from burnout and begin your journey. Light, L-I-G-H-T, stands for Let It Go, Here Today. Lena has been featured in over 40 publications and interviews. Additionally, Lena is a disability advocate for her son and founder of Central Jersey Special Needs Community, a place for caregivers and providers to connect and support one another. Thank you for being here, Lena. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are on this July themed Special Needs and Disability Awareness Month podcast. So tell me more about your son and how you became an advocate.
Where do I start? Zachary is a true joy. For a visual of Zachary, you can picture a little miniature Maui. He has curly little hair, he's got his little olive skin, and he is just a joy. He's about to turn 7 this month, so it's a very special month for us.
When's his
And
birthday?
July 26th, I'm the 12th.
Oh my gosh, that is the same birthday as my fiance. He is a Leo, like me
Yes.
too.
Yes,
Yes,
I love my Leos. And listen, this is a Leo who is starting to find his voice, but he loves happy birthday. He loves jingle bells. He loves all the attention all the time. We are now an ambassador for one of our local hospitals, and you can't tell us anything. Like, we've had VIP days and tours at Costco and at other places. And it's just been so amazing to see in just the first few years of his life, the impact that he has created. He's the reason why I founded Central Jersey Special Needs Community. I used to say that you don't choose the helping profession chooses you. So I was already a social worker and a helping person in the helping professions way before Zachary was even born. But now I feel like I found my corner in the world where I can scream from the rooftops and it'll be okay. So he has just opened up the doors in so many avenues, and I can't wait to tell you more.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Do you mind me asking what kind of special needs that he has?
I wish I could tell you because the doctors still don't know after seeing 4 different neurologists. We've done whole genetic testing. We have also done 2 MRIs. Everything comes back beautifully clean. It comes back without any concern, without any issues. We traveled to multiple hospitals, all for them to shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know, keep doing what you're doing. And so it's been definitely a journey that our next step is the Undiagnosed Disease Network, which once you do all of the genetic testing in the traditional sense, this is really that next step for parents and caregivers to go to hopefully see if there is a genetic cause for the disabilities. But right now, Zachary doesn't really walk yet, and he doesn't really talk. He's a little verbal, but I like to say it's more umbrella words. So the official diagnoses that he has, we have autism, which that was also that can be a whole nother episode in itself on the advocacy alone on that. Each part of his journey can be a different episode of advocacy. It feels he has autism, he has the intellectual developmental delay diagnosis, severe, and cerebral palsy, and a congenital exotropia, which is a vision impairment.
Wow. As a disability advocate for your son, what has been some of the most unexpected lessons or gifts that this journey has brought into your life?
To appreciate the little things. You could drop something and he just immediately cracks up. He doesn't even let you have a millisecond to be frustrated. People are so drawn and attracted to his energy that it is so beautiful. And I was already, and his dad too, we're still together, and we're both pretty spiritual people to begin with. And just like that law of attraction and alignment. And so this just feels like it just amplifies it 10 times. And he has brought so much impact to providers, to caregivers, to the community. We've been able to impact in so many different public spaces in our town. So it has really been so heartwarming. And I never would have imagined that I would be raising a child to that has such a great impact.
Wow, that's so amazing. What are some common misconceptions you've encountered about children with special needs, and how do you respond to those beliefs when they come up, either in public or in a professional space?
He goes to a school all for kids with disabilities and medical complexities. So we are a lot more exposed to disabilities than the average person. Prior to this, I wasn't accustomed to students getting dropped off in medical beds and medical transports. We now have friends that have trachs, which is, it belongs in their throat. We also have friends that we're still in diapers. We personally are still in diapers as well. So again, we've had to advocate for those too. My eyes are so much more open now to how many kids are being born with disabilities or developing disabilities for one reason or another, whether it's because of, especially when it comes to autism, right? I think there's that debate of, is it just that we have more education and assessment for it? Why is that prevalence increasing, right? Why is the increase in it? Is it really increasing, or do we just have more better developed tools? Then I also, this one really gets to me, but because he goes to a school for kids with medical complexities and disabilities, sometimes I wasn't prepared for our yearbook to have in loving memory pages. And there's more than one student on there.
Wow.
And so that was something that I was not prepared to experience whatsoever. And child loss isn't easy for anybody. And I think it weighs even more when these are his peers, these are his other students in the school. I remember when one of our students in our town he was battling cancer, and the entire town knew about it, right? The entire state probably knew about it. It happens so frequently, unfortunately, that it just feels, they honor the students, right? But the whole town doesn't know maybe where the student actually lives, but it definitely took me back and caught me by surprise that I was these are real problems in the world, not whether you could get a blowout or a nail appointment at the time you wanted, or it really puts things into perspective. And it goes back to what Zach has taught us of not sweating the small stuff.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. One, it never really occurred to me until you just said it, but you're right. When there's a school that is not used to having kids with special needs or things that could terminate their life sooner, then you have someone with, like, cancer or something. Like, I literally, there's a school down here, and they have a park dedicated to the child, and so many people remember the child. I seen when we first moved here 10 years ago, it had just happened, and so people had flyers up, they had posts on their cars. It's not very common in most schools, and then you're in a school that has more children with special needs, and that could occur more frequently. And like you said, it's not as blown up in
Mhm,
the community as it
mhm,
probably should be, right? Which is something that I think that people should be more aware of. I think that's
mhm,
such a great thing. And don't sweat the small stuff. I love that you said that as well, because you're right. When somebody is living a life and they have quote unquote fairly healthy people around them all the time, you can get in this concept of just, oh, I couldn't get into here, or there's traffic here, or whatever. And you don't think about these people that are struggling like daily with if their child's going to be okay, or if they're, even if it's not a child, if it's somebody, a loved one that they have special needs for, and they don't know if they're going to be able to walk around their house or not hurt themselves in a daily manner. So I think that those are really good things for the listeners, especially to think about, that aren't maybe going through that
mhm.
have no awareness, and they are going about their day. Oh, I wasn't able to get that parking spot up front that I wanted.
And there are so many perspectives that I even was not aware of until raising Zach, or until he's become bigger. Did you know that average weight limit for one of the baby changing tables is 50 pounds. We have surpassed that since he was probably a year and a half, maybe, and he's 7, right? So put that into perspective. So we need full size changing tables, and we've been able to advocate for that in a couple of our public places that we frequent, and we've been able to get full size changing tables. We've been able to, so again, just that small impact of, you don't know, right? There's such a push for, I believe that every generation has an awareness that they're trying to promote and create. And I think this generation of caregivers raising children with disabilities, we are advocating for more of those inclusive spaces. So I think we finally have gotten, schools can still continue to improve, and the insurance can also certainly improve and become a lot more empathetic to our situations. However, they've already come so far from where they were initially. Parents in, probably, don't quote me on the year, but 50s, 60s, 70s, it was just acknowledgement of that my child does have a disability. Please do not lock them up into an institution. And it's there, every generation has their battle and has their focus, but I really am excited to see us have more inclusivity at parks, in aquatic centers, in just a variety of places, right? Going to the beach. How many more beach access, wheelchair access things are you starting to notice?
Yeah.
And so all of that comes with advocacy. And so there are so many things that we are advocating for.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I like that you mentioned that too, of the generation and like the awareness just keeps growing more. There probably is, there's more of a population now too, but there probably is a higher statistic of people with disabilities. But also, I don't think that when we had like the medical knowledge that we do now, or even probably the growth of facilities that will take people and the insurance and all that. And because there was limits on things like wheelchair access and things like that, that people probably just didn't even show up. They didn't say anything. They just did what they had to do at that time. And there is more people speaking up and speaking out, which I think is amazing. So, how do you balance being a clinician and a mother when navigating systems like schools, healthcare, or therapy for your child? And being both that social worker and mom, do you find it hard to juggle what you know professionally with what you know or feel personally when it comes to getting your son the care and support he needs?
This is such a beautiful question. And thank you for asking it, because it really has been a tough balance to find. And I think I will always try and find that balance. And so for the first 5 years of his life, I was trying to come from what I thought would be a different perspective of, I know that the helping professions in the healthcare field, we are overworked and underpaid. Why? Because I am in that field.
Yeah.
So I was trying to take a different approach, but it didn't get him any further to get access to resources. It didn't get him any further in getting a diagnosis or creating the, not even the change that I wanted to see, but getting the answers, getting the support that we were looking for. And what I noticed from a professional standpoint is everyone was recycling the same 5 old resources that existed well before the pandemic, and they either don't exist anymore or they have long wait lists. And so that's where that burnout and that's where that professional frustration and honestly professional embarrassment came from. I used to work for our children's system of care and still do, and from the mental health side of things. And I am so embarrassed that they can't even assign case managers for us. We don't get a dedicated person where we get to develop relationships with, unless you have a mental health component assigned to it too. Some of ours don't. His is more behavioral, but you have to act as if it's all these mental health major things. So you at least have a point person to talk to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just talking to a stranger about the most sensitive topic and the most challenging topic. And when you start to get emotional, they say, oh, call the hotline, or we need resources for adult diapers. And they give you the same 2 resources that exist in the state. And it's like, that's it. And I've had to get loud. And so starting at year 6, I started to get loud. And now guess what? He's about to get an in-home therapist that is actually qualified to work with disabilities, even though we've been on a wait list for a year. We've been able to finally get his autism diagnosis after being denied twice and being told our nonverbal child was too social to be autistic. We finally got denied our adaptive stroller 3 times and forced into a wheelchair, which actually was a blessing. We still don't have Medicaid for him to because he's not disabled enough. Like it's just a
Wow.
lot of things that I am shocked from that professional standpoint of I thought the mental health field was bad and had a lot of red tape and had a lot of things fall through the cracks. It's even worse when it comes to disabilities. And that is a shame.
Yeah. I had Allison Hayes on who wrote a book about disability and advocacy and like how to work
Mhm.
through the systems and stuff. And I have not had to go through that myself, but just hearing some of the things that have to happen, it's crazy. And I also think people that don't go through it need to be there to support the people that are going through that kind of stuff to help in that advocacy. Just because you're not going through it doesn't mean that there's not a friend or family member that's out there struggling as well.
Correct. And there a lot of times people are starting to say it's not if you become disabled, it's when you become disabled. As we age, there becomes limited mobility. We hope that doesn't become our story, but there's that higher likelihood. Or delivery drivers can benefit from a ramp when they're carrying heavy
Right.
packages. Like everybody, there's a lot more to an inclusive design that can help all of the community, not just people that have disabilities. And I'm a big believer that we're not going to be 100% accommodating to everyone's needs 100% of the time. That is physically impossible. That is virtually impossible. However, we can do a lot better. How? By having a little bit more ramped access, by having a lot more full size changing tables accessible, by having just in general creating more spaces that you can change a small baby on a full size table. You can't
Right.
change a big baby or a grown adult in a small changing table. So that's where it's just increasing those conversations and making a point to it. Even with I've had to ask for waterproof wheelchairs at pools and swim facilities. And they're like, why can't you just use the chair? And let me put into perspective. You get him out of the pool, fine. You put him into the chair. You bring him into the bathroom. Maybe you change him dangerously in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then you put him back where? In a soaking wet chair? Will you sit in a wet on your wet towel after you just changed? No, you move your towel or no. And yes, could we put a towel? Could we put a thing? Could we put sure, but we're already lugging so many other things. It's like you are the public space for the community. You are the community center. You are so accommodate to your community.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say to parents who are at the beginning of their journey who may feel overwhelmed, maybe isolated or afraid after receiving a child's diagnosis?
I wish someone had done this for me. And it's like I would want to have them walk me down 5 years from now, so that I can start to be aware of because it's actually a blessing in disguise that we got denied the stroller 3 times, even though it zapped all of our energy at that point in our life. But it's actually better that we're in a wheelchair now because of the communication device that he's going to trial can only mount to wheelchairs and not adaptive strollers. I wouldn't have known that pushing for it 2 years ago. So and we're always optimistic for our child. I think there's a whole grief process that occurs and continues to occur with every milestone and with every age and whatever the case may be. But so I think there was some being in denial of, oh no, he'll walk, or oh no, even now, I don't think we're still ready for a wheelchair van, although he's getting bigger, right? And so we are seeing the benefits and the pros to having a wheelchair and having a wheelchair van. I think that would be the biggest piece because someone did tell me early on, you can't fight everything all at once, but it feels like you have to. It feels like a really bad game of chess because your first move dictates 10 moves from now. But you don't know all the other moves in between. But I think really being open to that support and being okay with maybe it's not your family that is your support system. Maybe it is other special needs parents. Maybe it is other providers that actually care. And once you establish your treatment team, it's okay to say no. It's okay to speak up and say that I'm not happy with these services. I am not, and looking elsewhere and getting on as many wait lists as possible. And even though the wait lists are exhausting, they do come up quickly, but it feels like it's crunch time because they always say the first couple of years of their life are vital and they're the most crucial and blah, blah. So you're telling me to slow down and take things one at a time, but then also this is the most important time in the smallest window possible. So it's like, how do you find that balance and just trying to prioritize? Yes, everything feels important and yes, everything feels, but like for us, his mobility is most important. Then comes speech, then comes his ability to not use a diaper anymore. Will we ever get to any of those? Not sure. But that's how we try and prioritize. Insurance also forces us to choose one because they only cover 60 visits across OT, PT, and speech in a calendar year. So you
Yeah.
get to choose if this kid's walking, talking, or dressing himself because
Wow.
we only get so many in a calendar year, which is overwhelming. And you just feel like your hands are constantly tied and your wheels are constantly turning. And I'm a very type B person, ADHD, in case you couldn't tell. And so you definitely have to be organized. I think organization will be a superpower and necessity when it comes to your child. So the more organized you can be from the start, the easier your life will be.
Such great advice, and I think that's
So much.
yes, yeah, I think that you've hit it on the head too. Like I said, I don't have special needs, but I think, if I could put myself in that position, it would be very overwhelming and I would assume I would want to tackle everything just like you said. And so I think that's good to know that it's let's get organized, let's do one at a time, let's like prioritize this as top priority and down and just do what we can because that's all you can do, really.
Yeah. And think about historically, like women's health has been dismissed so much. Think about it from that perspective for listeners who may not know or aren't in a caregiver role. It's how many times have you had to gone back to the doctor or have seen multiple doctors for the same symptoms and
Yeah.
the same ailments? It's if you had documented proof and you can shove all this evidence. And even with that, sometimes they're like, yeah, I don't know. It's still just anxiety, right? Like you still get dismissed. But the more paper trail you can create for yourself, the more ammo you have for them to advocate for yourself or to advocate for your loved one and you don't have to scramble and find it. That's what's delaying us applying to the undiagnosed disease network because they want us to start from the very beginning in the
Oh,
most detail possible. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that just feels like a mountain to climb. Yeah, I have other thoughts, but I'm gonna let you talk.
it sounds like you're extremely resilient, but I would love to know how has your son shaped or expanded your understanding of what it means to be resilient, not just for him, but also for you and for your family.
That's actually relates to the story I was about to share. So
Oh,
I'm glad I waited to ask for you to ask the question. So I almost picture it as you get the ball rolling on something and then you come to a mountain and you need to build support systems or resources to help you climb over the mountain because you can't lift that ball using your hands. Like you have to use other people to get that ball back up to that top of the mountain, to get that ball rolling again until you hit that next mountain. Because that's what they always feel like. It feels like you're constantly climbing. And that's really what speaks to the resilience. It speaks to you do have to keep pushing. And everyone loves to say you have to take care of yourself. And yes, that's true. And everyone loves to throw, if you Google caregiver, soon enough, you'll find the word respite associated with it. And respite it's great, but it's also not realistic. I'm a professional respite person, which that respite is intended to give caregivers a break. But when at 10 o'clock at night, they're not going to bed and they're having a meltdown, is anyone coming to my house and helping and putting him to sleep for us while we try and go to sleep to go to work in the morning? No, so that's really when I need respite. People ask for help. And if the honest help I need is, yeah, take my 96-pound child out of the car and put him into his 3-piece wheelchair that you don't know how to assemble yet. Oh, okay. No, don't worry. I'll do it because and so it's I've learned to stop and say, instead of saying, no, thanks, I got it. When they ask for help, I'll say, or if I want help, I'll say, sure. What did you have in mind? So then they can start offering what they have capacity to help with and you see me struggling or you see me needing some type of support, but you're not quite sure what. And so it just puts it back into that perspective of how can I really help them? And it's not to shut it down or be ungrateful because they want to receive the help. That has been a hard lesson to learn, but it there is that resilience comes with support. And so I can't do this journey alone. I have different strengths than his dad does and that the school does. We are blessed that we have not had to advocate for the school, but many families do.
Mm.
That is a very big part of a lot of people's journeys. And we let the school do what they need to do in order to teach our kid. And now he's leaving and now he's trialing, the eye gaze to work on communication. He is taking steps in a gait trainer. And that has all been done because of the therapies and the support and the staff and the teachers at school. So that is part of our village.
I like that you mentioned, I think that's so important when you ask, what does that look like, you helping? And like you said, it is not to dismiss it or anything, but it's nice to understand realistically instead of getting frustrated. Do you have capacity for and where are you at?
Mhm.
So I love that you said that. And I think that honestly can be useful in a lot of different scenarios, not just for special needs. I think when we, instead of taking that, I wanna say, like, frustration approach. Just
Yeah. Stop that knee jerk reaction of no thanks, I got it. I'm sure you've said that at least once in your life. I'm
oh,
sure every single, I'll bet $100 on
yes,
every single one of your listeners have at least said it once in their life, right? Like
yes.
it is so common for us to say no thanks, I got it for one reason or another, when really deep down, we could use the help. And sometimes you're just not open to receiving the help either. There's a lot of shame, embarrassment, guilt from there's a morality that's tied to it a lot of the times, or a society ties a moral compass to it, but that's not the case.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanna talk about the Central Jersey Special Needs community that you founded. What inspired you to start the Central Jersey Special Needs community, and what kind of impact has it had on caregivers and providers since its creation?
I'm excited. We're continuing our history where we hit 1,000 members within the first year of starting. We've now hit 2,000 members in the second year of being in existence. And
Wow.
it has been so beautiful. We've had an inclusive spring event where, an Easter egg hunt that didn't require kids to have to run around and go into the grass and stuff to find eggs. And the story that I think really resonates with me and one that I'm most proud of is there was a little boy and the mom actually wasn't even a member of our community and her OT happened to post in our group and had said, "Hey, there's this little boy who was having a birthday party and the two people that RSVP just backed out and mom is afraid and no one else RSVP'd from his school and she's afraid that nobody's going to show up and they can't get a refund and all that stuff. Is there any way anybody can come and celebrate this boy's birthday? Don't you know we filled the entire bowling alley? Like
Wow.
it was, and within 2-3 hours from it being posted, and
Wow.
my partner turns to me. I got chills just thinking
Yeah.
about it. My partner turned to me and said, "You did this because of
Wow.
your group, you did this and you made this possible." People traveled an hour, people got him gifts, the table was filled. And it's not about the gifts, but it's about celebrating a child's life. It's about community. It's about that village. And they were on the, and even people were commenting, what does he like? What, and she's nothing, please don't,
Yeah.
please just come, just please just be here. And it really warms my heart. And that's what it's about. It's about being able to know that when we are no longer here, there are other people out here looking for him. There are other people that are taking care of him because if I were to leave it to my mom's older than me, it chronologically it just doesn't make sense. So it's knowing and creating that village where we can.
Oh my gosh. That got me a little emotional. That's so sweet. I love what you're doing. That is amazing work. Community can be so powerful for healing and support. What makes your community unique, and what kind of connection are people finding there that they aren't feeling elsewhere? Which you gave us a little glimpse of that, but what else does this community provide?
I think when I had first formed like Collective and Co. and I was doing a lot of like business coaching and consulting, everyone was, and I wanted to consult on burnout and I still do. But there, a lot of the guidance was you're a therapist. That's what makes you unique. But it's, you put me in a room full of therapists and we're all talking about burnout and self care. We're
Right.
all just, this is why we made it and we're burnt out. And this
Yeah.
is how you take care of yourself. So I felt like I was a little lost in my branding and in my image. And now with Zach and seeing his journey and really embodying what it means to be a caregiver, what it means to be a disability advocate, what it means to just to really speak up and bring that community together. I feel like I finally found that corner in the world where I can bring that social work perspective and the caregiver perspective into one person. And because so many times I've had providers that the only experience that they have with children with disabilities is when they're in a professional setting. And guess what? A professional setting ends at 5 o'clock or it's only 2, 3 hours. It's not 24/7. So
Yeah.
it's being able to really empathize and validate because I'll share, oh, my son's nonverbal and he doesn't walk yet. And they're like, oh, I understand. I have a child with autism that doesn't speak. And it's, yeah, but they walk, right? Like it's just a different, it's not to say that I don't want to invalidate their experience, but it feels like a slap in the face because our biggest concern is the mobility issue. There's inclusive play spaces that everyone is so excited to go to because there's trampolines and there's mats on the floor and it's foam pits. And guess what? I asked if you can bring them in with the wheelchair if I bought wheelchair covers so that we didn't dirty the mats. And they said, we're afraid that they're going to dent or rip. So guess what? An inclusive space is not so inclusive after all. And that's what hurts. So when you get that from that professional side, and so I'm so adamant about the spaces that I host, the events that I host have a lot more effort for inclusivity than not. And even when we had that inclusive spring event, I brought a full size changing table with me because that was what one of our needs were, because I wanted to make it a safe space for the majority. And so it's again, we're not going to be 100% accommodating to everyone's needs 100% of the time. But again, we can do better. And so that's where I think that our community really makes a difference in we're not just a parent group or a caregiver group. We're not just a group for providers to promote at their services and mooch off of us. I have so many bigger plans, visions, and goals for the group. But again, with time, I always said if I had a superpower, it would be to freeze time. Just, I don't need to travel into the future. I don't need to levitate and teleport, but I just need to like pause where I'm at right now so I can do all the
Yeah.
things and like press play again and resume life. So not miss a beat anywhere else,
Yeah.
but that's not realities.
So do you have like monthly events that happen?
That's the goal. And it's one of those things that like I always have those intentions and then I'm not the best planner, again, type B. So that's where I have to learn to ask for help more and ask for support in delegating and developing community events. I do host a monthly caregiver support circle in person in one of our counties, but I'm hoping to go to a couple different counties and start hosting those just to build a little bit more familiarity within their own community and that's local to them so that they can do local park meetups and have different play spaces that they can visit and turn to and just creating those familiar faces. We just recently came back from Disney World and it was just so beautiful. Of course, we befriended three to four families with disabilities. And we're just magnet.
Yeah.
Once you open yourself and we are okay to be that strongest magnet that attracts. And that's where that law of attraction comes back into play. That's where the alignment comes back into play is that we're okay to be naturally, he is very okay with it as a Leo, to be the center of attention, to be the reason that people are drawn. Where a lot of the times we went to a special needs prom, we were the only person in a wheelchair and we had to get escorted throughout the entire venue to gain access into where the party was being held. And the back of my mind, I was like, wow, this is going to be inconvenient to do this all day. Oh, just kidding. We're the only family. So it's like we're still even one of the first catalysts to create accessibility for when it comes to mobility.
Yeah.
But all of our friends are in wheelchairs. It's just such a different world because of the school that we're in. All of our friends and all of our peers have a lot of mobility challenges. So that is our world. So
Yeah.
it's not until, and I never really paid mind to it. It's not because I didn't care, but it just wasn't in my face every day. I would hold the door open for somebody or ask if they needed assistance. And then there's stigma and pros and cons about that too. So it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't.
I absolutely love what you're doing with your community. Is there a way people can reach out and support like events and things like that?
Right now, we are on Facebook. I do have hopes and plans to grow. And even if you're not in New Jersey, feel free to join and just be a part of our story and be a part of the resource network. And you can just even leave in the notes if or do you live in Jersey, and you can just say, no, I found you on Felicia's podcast and or however you want to share. But I do have hopes in the near future to build out a separate community dedicated to caregivers. We also always have an ongoing fundraiser because guess what? Our insurance doesn't cover diapers. Our insurance denied us for a bath chair because it's a comfort and convenience item. So we're always having this ongoing fundraiser specific to Zachary. So I don't want to confuse that to your listeners. If there's ever any fundraising opportunities specific to events for Central Jersey, they'll be shared in our group and we'll have mailing lists and things like that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, for any of the listeners that might want to create a similar support network in their own maybe town or region, what advice would you give them to?
Start on Facebook. I think that's where a lot of caregivers still hang out there, and that's where a lot of the resource pages already exist. There really isn't a another big platform that also offers group community the way Facebook does.
Yeah.
So that I think would be the first place to start. Also see if there are family success centers near you. And so those are a lot of the times they I love our family success center, and that's where I have our caregiver support group. They are usually free to the community and they're not income based. A lot of these services tend to be income based. And so that's also again discouraging for caregivers because if they make too much, or I feel like you can never make too much
Right.
in the world, and especially as a child with disabilities. But it then you don't qualify for a lot of programs and services. So it's very easy to feel discouraged, or it's the aging out, right? And connect with your local family success center. They're going to be at least one of your first steps to finding more community events and resources. Or you may be now on their radar where they're inclined to and want to develop a program or an event for you or with you.
Awesome. It's been such a pleasure, Alina. I absolutely love what you're doing within the community. I love how you're advocating. I think it's very admirable and it's so needed for somebody to be advocating for all of these things that are not on top of mind for everybody, but within the community, there are people that really need it. And sometimes they
Mhm.
don't always speak up for themselves. So I think that's such an amazing thing that you do. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me and thank you for listening to our story.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review so that we can connect with more people to develop our mind, body, and spirit.